So if you've been following the video tutorials up to this point, you may have noticed a slight problem in the spreadsheet. Your final sheet should look something like this, pretty similar to this one with this nice row of sums at the bottom and a couple additional columns with the dollars calculated here. If we go over to our graphs panel, we see our line graph does not quite look right. It looks a little different than it did previously. And this is because what happened is when we added the sum column here at the bottom, the previous way we selected the rows or the columns for the line graph calculates everything in column D. Well, that now includes this very large number that's the sum of all these other numbers. So we need a way to deal with this, right? And there's a couple of different strategies, and I'm going to run you through 3 of them very quickly to show you how to get the most relevant data. Now remember, the whole idea here is you want to present the best data possible. So there's no one exact right solution when you come across problems like this. And you will come across problems like this as you work through your other assignments and in your practical jobs. So the first one I want to show you is about how you can move this sort of data. And this is a flawed solution, but it can be useful. So here we have our sum columns, right? And it'd be nice if we could just get them out of here and put them somewhere else in the sheet. So we still kept those values. So Excel has a function to cut data, right? So you could go edit, cut, or Control X on your keyboard and cut these out and then paste them somewhere else. And that will work. I assume you all know how to do that. So I'm going to show you how to transpose data, which is very useful. But you have to copy, not cut. So we're going to copy, we're going to transpose data, and then we're going to delete it. In this case, I'm going to click copy, and you should see these little marching ants showing up around your data. And then I'm going to go over to just this empty column over here, and where it says paste in the top left, this is your clipboard panel on your home tab. All right, click paste, and then go down here to paste special. Now, if you just click OK at this point, it's just going to do like a simple paste, and it'll move it over to the right here, and it won't be useful. You could also copy the formulas, but Excel will try and reread them, and since they're in different places, they'll be different. So all we can do here is we can paste our values, but we want to click this transpose checkbox. What the transpose button does is it changes rows to columns or columns to rows. So we had our data in a row. And now that we've clicked this, it's going to end up in a column. So I hit OK here, and here's my values. And that's fairly nice. I'm going to do the exact same function, copy, paste special, transpose. So we can put our labels next to them, and you can see which all of the numbers they are. And that's useful. You can make your pie graph that way. Since this data has been moved, I can delete this now, and it should fix our line graph. And as we see, yep, there is the fixed line graph. So that works. The problem is, if you do this too many times, you'll break the live link. Actually, at this particular moment, the live link still works. So let's just Espresso at 9 o'clock. Let's change this from 5 to 500. Okay. So our live link is still working right now. You see the pie graph did change for the Espresso dollars. They went way up. But it's not ideal. It's not intuitive if you save or you rename the file or anything. All those links will break. So that's one way to do it. And that's a good tool to have in your arsenals, this way to transpose data. If you type in something in a whole bunch of rows and you want to make them a column, copy, paste special, transpose. Very useful. Okay, so the second way that we can deal with this is this idea of multiple sheets. And this is another tip for Excel that might save you some time. So I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to tell you the problems with it. So if you click any of these tabs right here, you can right click, you can get this option to move or copy the sheets, okay? And if you click this checkbox that says create a copy, it's going to duplicate everything that's on that sheet. So right now, I'm trying to copy the sales sheet, and I'm going to click OK. And I have sales 2. You should see sales 2 and sales 1 are exactly the same. Now, sales 2 is not linked to anything at this moment. All our graphs were generated in sales 1. So if I mess around with numbers here, nothing's going to change on the graph page, or it shouldn't. Okay. However, the problem, what you could do here is generate your line graph using the sales, generate your pie graph using sales 2, then move them over separately. That would be fine. That would work. Some situations in business, you might want to do that. The problem is that when you go to re-enter more data, you're going to have to enter it in multiple places, all right? And the number of times I have seen someone try to do a situation like this, go change a number or go add a new row in the sales 2, but forget to do it in sales 1 or vice versa. It happens a lot. So that's a serious limitation to this approach. But that's one thing that you might also want to do. So be sure you know how to copy sheets. All right, so this is very useful. All right, I'm going to delete this just for this moment because I want to show you the third solution, which is the most difficult, but probably it's going to give us the best data. All right, so I'm going to put in my sum formulas back here. So if we sum B3 to B35, and then still handle that all the way over. That's our sum formulas. And again, we expect this to break the line graph. Our line graph is not going to look good. And it doesn't, because we have this big sum total column at the end. So what I want to do is I want to tell this chart to ignore that data, but I want the data to stay in there. Okay? So the most obvious way to do this is to create a new line chart and select the correct things. All right, so I'm actually going to pull up a keyboard program here. You don't need to do this, just use your regular keyboard. But I want you to see which keys I'm clicking, right? They'll highlight in white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my mouse here at the top of a column. All right, scroll down to the bottom of the column, hold Shift, and then click to highlight it. Go to the top of the next column, hit the Control key, hold it down, click to the top of that column. Let go of the Control key, scroll down to the bottom, click Shift, click again, and repeat. Ready? So Control key, click the top of the column, scroll down to the bottom, Shift key, click the bottom of the column. All right, and I'm going to do the next couple pretty quickly. And if you do it this way, you're going to be able to create the line graph that's absolutely correct and only includes the data we want to include. All right, so I'll just minimize this keyboard program right now. Let's go Insert, Line, Graph. There we go. That's the graph we wanted. Now we can move that one. We'd be just fine. All right, so that's one way to do it. That's a lot of fancy clicking. So I'm going to show you another way to make sure that that line graph only selects the appropriate information. All right, so I'm going to go back to the Graphs tab. And looking at this graph, what I wanted to do, the problem I have is that it's adding everything that's in row 36. I don't want to add row 36. I want to stop at row 35. Okay. So I'm going to go to Graphs, and I'm going to click the problematic graph. I'm going to right-click and go to Select Data. This lets you input where you want this graph to be looking for its data. Okay, this is a very dangerous place to start clicking buttons, all right, because you will very quickly make a graph that doesn't say anything. The first thing you want to do is click here where it says coffee, right? It's going to get you to deselect this formula because messing with this formula will cause problems very quickly. You can actually edit this formula directly. It's complex, and you'll do more complex formulas than this. So what I want you to do is look here, and we want to see which of these things we can adjust to ignore row 36. So I'm going to highlight coffee. I'm going to click edit. As you can see here, it's adding all the values from C3 to C36. I'm going to change that 36 to 35. That's going to ignore that last row of data. And click OK. And then I'm going to do that for every single one. So there are 7 of them, and this is just going to take me just a few seconds here. Everywhere I see a 36, I am changing it to a 35. That's going to eliminate that last row. And so that's going to eliminate the sum row. And in that sense, we should have the correct data. Now, this is somewhat vulnerable to typos. If you accidentally type 356 here, you're going to have a very different formula. So make sure you're eliminating 36 and replacing it with 35. Okay, and when all that's done, I'm going to click OK. And there we go. That's our good looking graph again. This is probably the best solution because you've managed to preserve all your information. We still have our sum rows here. You've preserved your ability to live update data. So it's Espresso's at 2 o'clock. Let's put in 500 there. And our graphs are going to change. All right, so that's very useful. And it's all still on one sheet. Okay, so this is probably the best solution, but like I said, it's good to know those other tricks about transposing and creating new sheets. So please do continue to let me know if you have any questions, and good luck with your assignments.